and welcome back, dweebs, to a special edition of the Dweeb live stream. We've got a double feature for you. So, Han Shot First fans, if you're here a little early, come hang out with us. We are in the horror corner again tonight. It is October after all, and we are talking about Netflix's The Deliverance, not Deliverance. Okay, not Deliverance.
There's no banjo strumming in this movie here, and it is probably the farthest set location from Appalachia by any stretch.
I might have enjoyed some banjo in the movie, but you may notice I am not joined by an egg tonight, gang. So please join me in welcoming my dear friend and our resident, not only a paranormal expert with some ghost hunting experience of his own, but someone with a very unique perspective and insight into this particular case that The Deliverance is based on a true story of. So, Nate, welcome to the show, brother. So glad to have you here. Why don't you tell the folks a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Just, longtime friend of Kev. Good evening. Do some paranormal investigating on the side, and my personal career background. In the past few years, I worked in child services here in Indiana. So this story is kind of what the movie is based on. Is kind of it's a little close. It's a little close to home there. So I'm excited to dive into this.
Same. I cannot wait. We actually watched this movie for the first time together, which is a unique experience in its own. For Nate and I, we've been friends about as far back as I can remember, at least. Our families are friends, you know how that goes. But as far as watching movies, we live in different states, so it's not very often, maybe a time every few years that we sit down and watch a movie together. So the first time we were kind of chatting through it and would just kind of tune in, tune out. And for this episode, we both re-watched this movie. And I will say, Nate, that it's a lot better when you're talking through the whole thing. I will just say that right now. Before we go full spoilers, gang, which there will be spoilers. Okay. All of them. We're going to talk about this movie, maybe a little bit about the real life case, everything in between. So these are going to be the last couple of minutes. If any folks want to get out now and come back and see us later, let me just ask you this, Nate. Generally speaking, without spoilers, what were your thoughts on the movie, and would you recommend it to the dweebs at home?
I give it 2 thumbs down. I will fully divulge into why that is my rating, but just using my personal experience and my knowledge of what the movie is based on, as well as some of the acting in the movie. We'll lead with that.
That is good. And I will say this, if you already have Netflix and you're looking to just have that spooky aesthetic and you've already watched everything that you like there, and this is going to be something new for you, it's not without its moments. All right. This is one of those movies that I would probably say you're better off kind of shutting your brain off, so to speak, and not thinking about it too hard, because it won't make a lot of sense the more you try to unpack it. That's just my personal opinion. It will be getting added to the list on Letterboxd, which currently is up to 104 horror movies. And I'm going to say, gang, it's going to be closer to 100 than it is to cracking that top 5. However, don't let that discourage you from hanging out with us, because there's plenty of fun stuff to talk about. And I think we'll start, maybe, Nate, as we get into the spoilers, because you and I both wanted to do this. Let's start with a positive. Glenn Close, fucking killed it in this movie. Am I right? What were your thoughts on her portrayal in her character as the mother of the our ghost victim, I suppose, of our protagonist?
Fantastic acting, all the way around. I mean, Glenn Close is Glenn Close, but if there was any redeeming quality of this movie, it was the fact that we got to see Glenn Close shine throughout the movie. I think when we were watching it first, I was like a little concerned that maybe this was like some blackface sort of situation. I was like, oh no. Just originally, once they announced her, in this movie, but like nowhere near is it that scenario. Um, but yeah, yeah, I would absolutely 100% say she carried the movie. If you want to see a phenomenal acting job in a craptastic movie, this would be the movie to watch.
Yeah, I would agree. She steals the scenes that she is in, which is maybe stealing isn't correct. She's the biggest name out of all of them. Help me with the name of our child services worker. That's the other big actress. Here we go.
Monique.
There we go, right there. So that's our other biggest name on screen, and we'll talk about her as well with her portrayal and its accuracy as far as being a child services person potentially, but she didn't do nearly as well. Glenn Close killed it. It got a little cheesy for me at the end. If you guys look at the bottom right of our screen, you will see what is Demon Glenn Close, which she has a line that really in what's supposed to be the most intense, emotional, and probably scary scene of the movie. Nate, tell me if you think differently here. Where she kind of it made me laugh. If I were drinking something in that moment, I would have squirted water out of my nose, and I don't even know if I really I don't want to say, I don't even want to say the line, but you can look this up. I've seen the clip on Twitter. She says that she can smell the evangelist's, um, well, her woman, her essence, but she calls it nappy. And it was just such a line, like the way it was delivered. That floored me. I don't know who put that in there, why it was in there. It had no need of being in there. But outside of that one moment where it's like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm laughing hysterically when I should be on the edge of my seat. I thought she did a great job. Nate, what did you think about that particular line?
I guess they got inspiration from Don Imus. There. Anyway,
Oh,
I mean,
jeez.
that was probably the most shocking part of the movie, just because you always see. I mean, I don't know how many horror movies you've seen with like demons and things like that. I mean, another good example would be The Rite with Anthony Hopkins. But usually it gets played up that they're very aggressive verbally and don't have a filter. So, it's something I've seen before, but it's just the deliverance of that line there.
Uh, uh,
Man,
uh.
it just blows it up in your face.
Yeah, it really, to me, and it's a common critique. I think at some point the dweebs could have a bingo card for me, where it's just like, oh, here's where Kev's going to talk about the tension, the rubber band, and how you're not supposed to or the balloon, and how you're not supposed to let too much air out of it in an important moment. It's what I refer to as the marvelization of certain genres, where I there's a time and a place within a story to be telling jokes and having moments that are funny. And I just don't see how that got through screen testing without multiple people laughing out loud. And that's not the reaction. As Mac would say, and it's always sunny, laughs are cheap, dude. You're going for gasps, okay? You don't want people laughing at your demon, I don't think. Unless you're doing Scary Movie 8 or something. I have no idea, but I didn't think the point would be to laugh at the demon. And then again, when the demon returns to the little boy's form, as we see, this is why we got to get back and start telling people the story. But watching an 8-year-old call his mother a "see you next Tuesday" also made me laugh a little bit. But I don't know if that one wasn't as egregious as this, but I was like, I was like, how many little kids in the crowd were like, yeah. So if they are laughing, it should be out of discomfort. Harl says, hope Glenn Close studied all kinds of karate for this one. She wheels up. I tell you what, she watched some, since Sleek is in the chat as well. What up, Sleek? I will say that Glenn Close did her best 1998 Sting impression. She had a baseball bat with her damn near a third of her scenes. Welcome, everybody. Thank you in the chat. We've got Harl's Headbug, Sleek, Johnny Football, and my dear friend James, who's getting us prepped for Han Shot First. I guess now we'll call this the obligatory walk through the plot segment, right, Nate? So in order for us to really start talking about this, we need to explain the story to those who may not know it. So actually, I guess to backpedal a little bit, this was based, and forgive me, I believe it's based on inspired by, I should say, the true events of, is it Latoya Ammons? Did I get the name right?
Latoya Ammons and her family. This happened late 2011, early 2012, back in Gary, Indiana. Some stuff was supposedly happening in this house. They would start to have like a bunch of flies in the house. Supposedly the blinds were like this like weird oily substance. The kids started doing kind of weird things. And I forget offhand, aside from like, talking in voices. Somebody ended up calling Department of Child Services, or for whoever's watching, I can't speak to United Kingdom or anybody else, but CPS, DCFS, whatever you want to call it, child services. Somebody called a report. A caseworker did go out there. Caseworker's name was Valerie Washington. And there's documentation where kid walked up the wall backwards by himself and got thrown into the wall, and just a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Whether or not you believe it, whether or not like some of this is legit. I mean, you've got police officers, even a 30+ year decorated veteran of the Gary Police Department, making statements what they saw. This stuff is in. I am not, as a former child services worker, I've not seen, the documentation myself, but I have a former coworker who worked in the Gary area and was working there around this time. I mean, there's just all this documentation of these events. That house where this stuff was happening no longer exists. For those of you who know Ghost Ventures, Zach Bagans bought the house, did for lack of a better term, documentary, tore down the house, family moved out of Gary. They live in Indianapolis somewhere. I don't know.
Nice, Charles. Somewhere in the Gary.
Somewhere in the Gary. Oh, damn. But yeah, I mean, it's just a interesting story with a lot of things that, what is actually true, what is not true. So the family ended up selling the story to a producer, which Netflix ended up buying the rights for $65 million to make this movie.
Yes.
They paid $65 million for this to make the movie.
For the rights.
Yes. But I don't know, and that's the thing, I don't know how much, if anything, of that $65 million went to the family.
Oh, probably not very much, right? Because they had already sold the rights to, isn't that
Probably.
what you said? Netflix bought it from a producer?
I
That's
think so.
wild. How will they keep making this? I thought they learned after that Will Smith debacle. Remember that? The weird, modern day orcs thing with the elves? That was really great. Everybody loved it. That's why I can remember the name of it. Wow, they're still just Jesus Christ, who is running Netflix over there? They just
Yeah. So, just to give a little more detail, like in the Demon House, because it's nicknamed the Demon House documentary that Zach Bagans did, there was some interesting pieces of evidence, some shadow stuff, and ended up when he ended up tearing the house down, he took some of the stuff, like the stairs to the basement, which stuff was happening in the basement, some of the dirt and everything, and put it in his haunted museum in Las Vegas, which I've been to and I've seen the stuff. Like, I didn't personally experience anything in that room. Sometimes people, I guess, stuff happens. I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't confirm or deny it, but nothing else of the house exists anymore. So, this story happened, um, probably, well, not probably, 12 years ago at this point, 11, 13, 12 years ago. Um, and it now just got made into a movie, although it's kind of been like, Lee Daniels signed on about 3 years ago. I've read some stuff on this that because this family didn't own the house, they were renting. They were renting the house at the time. I've heard stuff that nobody else has said, or previous tenants said they'd never had any issues of anything. Um, after that, I mean, there was some weird stuff that happened again during the documentary that Zach Baggins did. Um, I don't know personally. I mean, the stuff in the hospital where the kid walked up the wall backwards. I mean, and you have like multiple like professionals, like I'm talking like nurses and DCS worker and police, like saying they all saw this stuff. I mean, it kind of lends some credibility to it. I'm not sure how I feel one way or another. But yeah, anyway, this is what the story's all based on. Again, I don't know that I've heard, I can't confirm this, but even though the house is torn down, supposedly people still go to the spot and cause some issues, whatever those issues would be. Which unfortunately, I don't know why you would want to be going to Gary, Indiana.
yeah, you want to go to the haunted parts of Gary, Indiana, because you're a
so
real
all
sicko.
so all of Gary, basically.
That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you, you want to try to find the worst part of Gary, Indiana? Jeez, we can do this, folks. We're from the state, all right. But you guys better not say any mean things about Gary, Indiana, in the chat, all right?
And also another big actor that signed on is the guy from Stranger Things, Caleb McLaughlin. I forgot about him. The African American kid in Stranger Things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Will.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh, damn. Will has, man, he's going to look a lot taller and stronger in season 5 of Stranger Things.
Well, no, it's not Will.
You're good, Charles. It's not no, well, okay, but it's one of the group. It's one of the main
Or not
characters. Sorry,
Caleb.
I can't remember all the characters' names right now except for Elle and Will. But yeah, it's one of the core members.
Lucas. There we go.
Lucas, thank you.
Yeah.
Plays the older brother in this movie. So okay, yeah, now will be a good time for us to dive into the plot. We'll kind of just do the Cliff Notes, very quick version, and then we can kind of spread things out as it goes. But we start out with a mother who, forgive me, I want to give the actress some credit here because I thought she did a pretty decent job. Andra Day
Yeah.
played the mother, and yeah, Nate, Caleb McLaughlin, I never know. That's our Stranger Things veteran. Omar Epps was in this movie. Hell yeah.
Which is interesting to me, considering that Omar Epps is from Indiana. Or wait, no, maybe I'm thinking of Mike Epps, I think, or somebody else. Never mind.
But anywho, Omar Epps was in this. Demi Singleton also played the daughter. I thought she did a good job in her role. Like, for what it's worth, I thought the cast did a good job with what they were given. Like, there weren't too even the little boy, the actor, like, that's not an easy gig for a child of that age to play someone possessed by a demon. And a lot of the stuff was voiceover with the modulator, but his face, like, I have rarely been that scared of a literal child before. That dude could slap on a great demonic face. I think the kid has a future. His name is Anthony B. Jenkins. I think he's going to be hopefully a good actor going forward because he scared the shit out of me. Anywho, so we've got the three children. All right, they are living with their mother, Ebony, and their grandmother, who is played by Glenn Close. And Monique plays their child services representative. And you can tell it's almost like a Jack Torrance background, right? Like, she has
Mhm.
the mother is a former alcoholic. Everybody talks about it, everybody's got a problem with it. It's the biggest concern for the mother. So when these demonic things start happening to the kids, child services is all over mom, and at a certain point even grandma is all over mom, like, you're hurting these kids, quit doing it, you're a drunk, quit it. At the beginning of the movie, she's been sober for months. The stress of the possessions kind of leads her to start drinking again, which then, as far as the movie goes, makes her an unreliable narrator. So you're sort of like, you're not, do you trust her version of things that are going on? And the kids, when they're possessed, they seem to black everything out. So then it makes mom look even shittier every time, grandma walks in, and the kids don't know what happened, and mom can't explain herself either. And so, lo and behold, she's got this pressure coming down on her, and an apostle, Nate, comes in and says, I can save your children. I failed an exorcism 20 years ago in this very house, and those demons that haunted that family are now coming after you and your family, and only me and you and Jesus can sort this whole deal out. Right? So they, not an exorcism, by the way. They kind of bitch slap exorcisms, right, Nate? At one point, mom's like, you mean an exorcism? And she's like, hell no, I don't need some kind of medium. This is a deliverance, because we want you to search for that old Burt Reynolds movie and maybe click on ours by mistake. So fucking exorcism, dog. This is L Deliverance. And so we get to a point where the priest and mom are fighting the demon. At this point, the child services worker kind of believes the story, because, as Nate mentioned, at one point, the little kid, Spider-Man, walks up a wall, or as Sleek put it, moonwalks up a wall.
Mhm.
And she sees that. And I think she finally is like, oh, okay, I trust mom now. She was telling me the truth. I just watched this kid in the movie. He unstraps himself, like, he gets out of his restraints to do all of that. So the apostle dies valiantly trying to fight this demon, who takes the shape of not only Ebony's mother, but eventually Ebony herself. She has this really funny moment that should not have been funny, where she tells Ebony that she died. The reason, as she's dying, she's like, Ebony, I'm dying, which on its own is kind of funny. And then she's like, I failed because I had fear. I had self-doubt. That can't happen to you. You want to conquer this demon, you can't have fear, which I will go on my rant in a moment about how whoever wrote this just doesn't know how fear works, because
Mhm.
conquering fear isn't just saying, like, pulling a Dennis Reynolds and being like, sickness be gone. You can't just say, I'm not afraid anymore. You're not Eminem. Okay. You conquer fear by still being afraid and doing it anyway. But that's neither here nor there, because eventually mom gets choked out by the demon. She sees her mother. Her mother says, you may not want to talk to me right now, but you can talk to God. And then boom, she goes Super Saiyan, like KO Ken times 20, and says, demon, get your bitch ass out of my son. And then she throws her elbow guard off and hits the demon with the people's elbow. And next thing you know, game over. She has lost her children. The state has taken her children, but it's okay, because Monique is on her side now. And the funniest moment of them all is at one point Monique stressing the difficulty of the situation, and our main character, who started out by telling her mother like that being a Christian was a fix and that she was just getting high off religion. Now she's full blown Christian, and she says to Monique, "If it's God's will, then I will get them back." And Monique says, "I wish I had your faith." And then we say based on a true story, everybody's cool, have a good time. The house was bulldozed in 2016, but people still say the sidewalk give them the heebie-jeebies. And there it is. There's our plot synopsis, so we can start going back and unpacking these things, some of the moments. Nate, we touched on it briefly. I think a good point to maybe go back to, because she's a big part of the story. The child services agent, the one who calls Ebony's mother a bitch multiple times to her face. Would love to talk about the realism of that part of the movie, and I will just hand that to you and pull up chat. Don't worry, Shadow. You can trust Nate in the sense that, so he's my oldest friend. No one has gotten under my skin and irritated me to the levels that this man to my virtual left, your right, has done. So he's pretty cool. He's pretty chill, and he will help us shit on some things, namely this movie. I second the vote for Harles Barkley for president. Oh, I didn't name the demon. The demon had taken over what? He was acting as the son, right, of the little boy who lived there 20 years ago.
Yeah, Trey.
It was, which got confusing because there was Andre and Trey. So it was Dre and Trey. And there are how many names in our, like, you could just pick a different one, maybe make it. What are we talking about here? Anywho, back to Monique and her incredibly accurate, real-to-life portrayal. I will say this, as far as the whole letting me know this character was an asshole, she starts her scene just loudly chewing gum and being like, "I got you today, Miss Ebony." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I hate this person." Now, that stuff works on me, okay? The whole, we'll have them eat something so we know this character is an asshole. That work, because once I can hear you chewing, it's done. You're on my list. We're not eating lunch together ever again. So she had me riled up from the beginning, but she also, I felt like, painted child services in a very awful light. The kind of light that I would paint Nate in when I was giving him a hard time back in the day. You know what I mean? Just felt like she was the evil child services rep. So what were your thoughts on all that?
Oh man, where do I start here? So a one thing that always irritates me about movies is if they're based on a true story, or they, have to do with like something that's real life. Like, for example, I saw like a Be Real horror movie that was on Netflix one time, that was based on the Villisca Axe murder house, and they didn't film it in the Villisca Axe murder house. They made some random bullshit house. Nothing grinds my gears if you're gonna do something on a true story and you don't either use the source material correctly, or you twist things where it's just beyond ridiculousness. I will absolutely 100% hate your movie to the max. So yeah. So first of all, like, I get this is just based on a true story, but the fact that they filmed in, like, I think Pittsburgh, and they based it in Pennsylvania really grinds my gears.
I love it.
Like, just film in Indiana.
Couldn't have done one nice thing for Gary, Indiana. Although, I mean, I don't know. I'm not signing up. Again, I'm not signing up to hold a boom mic.
Again, the house has been torn down since 2016. So, like, okay, you can't film in the house. I get it. But also, Monique, great actress, mind you. I've enjoyed her in other things. But this portrayal, like, if I, as a former DCS caseworker, said anything even like a tinge similar to what she said in the movie, my ass would have been on the curb without a job before I even left that person's house.
Which is crazy to me. In a land where we are allegedly free, the fact that a government employee is not allowed to call a citizen's mother a dusty ass bitch is just unforgivable, right? If come on, you got to be able to tell her how crusty she is and call her a bitch multiple times.
Well,
What are you
you
doing
know,
for? What are we here for?
if there's professional ways to get that point across and do that. And like, I'm not going to go call somebody's parent a bitch or something like that. I mean, this is more just tailored to me. Like, you are not going to have the same experience watching this unless you have been a child services worker. I just I couldn't get over that. And then, like, it completely, not only that, but other things in the movie, but it like completely ruined the movie for me. Like, maybe it was still solid acting, but just like the realism, if you're gonna base it on a true story, you don't have to go that far. Like, there are professional, I get it, it's a movie, but there are professional ways you could have incorporated and would have just worked just as well. Like,
Yeah, she can be your secondary antagonist without her being an evil person. Because just by the nature of her job and the fact that the children have bruises on their arms, she could have provided tough love without being shitty. Like that was the thing. She was just rude and shitty when it didn't make sense to be because she was already in the right. And it's her job to keep this mother in line considering the situation. And there are other factors that we didn't even mention that they allude to. The mother did not let child services know that they had moved. They even at one
although,
point the mother is like, "Oh, you already found their school." So like she wasn't keeping them informed. It sounded like she was trying to avoid dealing with them, but it still wouldn't be a reason, Nate, right? Like hostility would not be the medicine to
well,
cure
like,
that, right? Like
yeah, I mean, like, I would get frustrated if I couldn't find someone, but there's ways to go. Yeah, probably would be good. Um, there's ways, like, as my personal experience, there's ways you can find somebody, or um, like, go to the school or whatever. Like, it's not that hard to find those things. So like, that was, kind of realistic, sort of, little bit, but like, just, again, I understand it's a movie, but just the portrayal, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's a weird job to paint in such a negative light, I guess. I don't know. It was quite a decision. I don't know if that was the director's call or what. I mean, I assume I don't know if it was originally written to be that way or not, but I don't think it helped too much, especially with the then 180 that she takes in the final 15 minutes of the movie. Also, like if you don't make her such an asshole for the first hour, it makes a lot more sense at the end when she's actually on the mother's side. After you don't have to rely on the kid doing the Spider-Man thing. I mean, obviously that's meant to be an impactful moment, but I don't know. It just a lot of it felt unnatural to
Yeah,
me.
and again, like, in my experience in those scenarios, it's not that I'm against you. I'm not gonna, my only concern in doing that job, and you know that portrayal, like, I mean, I'm not going to be an asshole about it. Like, nobody wants to, and that, kids ended up getting taken in the movie, but nobody wanted to take your kids. Nobody wants to take your kids. And, if it's a scenario where unfortunately that was needed, it's not something I'm going to enjoy. And they just made it, play into stereotypes that go around with CPS, DCS, DCFS, whatever you want to call it. It just, again, ruined the whole movie for me.
Yeah, and there was a lot of that. You mentioned the word stereotypes, and that just kind of you could apply that to a lot of characters. I felt the way the mother was treated. I don't know how Latoya Amons might feel about the way she was portrayed in this movie. Um, Not that the ghost story parts were her fault, but she really like it. I don't know. The whole thing was interesting with her being a drunk. It was like watching it was honestly like she was like a female Jack Torrance, you know, but you know, he becomes the bad guy at the end. You don't root for him in the final 15 minutes to get it all sorted out. So I don't know. I thought there were some interesting decisions in how they portrayed the characters, because the mom is also just kind of an asshole like the whole time. Like I
I
get it in
mean,
reality, like it's a stressful situation, but she's kind of shitty to her kids the whole time. It's like before, and she's never possessed, by the way, at any point in time. It's the kids that get possessed.
I will say in that scenario though, um, that's not something that I haven't seen before when I used to be in child services. So that part,
Yeah,
like,
fair.
that's got some realism to it. And I also want to say, like, thinking back to the true story, um, Latoya Hammonds was very religious through this whole thing. In fact, some of the things to go back on, or think about, like, a lot of people were thinking she was like influencing their kids to do these things, like in real life. That it played into, maybe there's not a psychiatric thing, but this is just playing it up for their mother, sort of
Which they
thing.
allude to in the movie, but not
Mhm.
well. I didn't feel like they expressed that well. And again, it's because they made that change with the character in the movie. She's anti. She sounds more like me. You know, she's anti-religion. She tries to get her mother to take the cross off of her wall. She calls her mother a hypocrite, basically saying, "You were shitty to me then. You're still shitty now. You've just tricked people. You've just tricked your church family into thinking that you're good." She says, you know, this is a fix. You've traded in one high for another. All of these things, which sounds like was the opposite of who Latoya Amons was. But yeah, they have a moment which does not fit their narrative really at all, but it was part of the real story. So for whatever reason, I guess they shoehorned it in where they mention that they have. I can't remember if it's a counselor or if it's when they all three of them act out at the same time and then they're talking to a doctor or something, where they point that out and say that, you know, your children are doing this because they think it's what you want, which just does not make any fucking sense based on the movie that we've seen. Like whenever they step out of line, their mother is easily agitated and screams at them all the time. Like at one point on her daughter's birthday party, she's fucking blacked out drunk, and the little dude's just standing in the corner facing the wall, not really even doing anything. And she's just fucking screaming at him, like, get your fucking ass upstairs. So it just sort of, that wouldn't make any sense. Like they would not be doing that to get her approval because she was flying off the handle and being super aggressive to them when they were doing it. So
Right.
it fit the original narrative, but had made no sense in the movie. But again, also as you can tell, maybe one of my issues with it was just how blatantly uh, Christian it got in the final 20 minutes. It
Yeah.
just was. I
And
didn't think it was going to be a God's Not Dead 6 kind of deal.
and another thing also that really grinded my gears is Lee Daniels, the director. He only talked to Latoya once or twice over the phone and never met her. Like, it was supposed to be his interpretation of her life, but like, man, like, you know,
I think that was technically before in the
oh,
timeline leak, but that's a great point.
just like, what are you doing with this story? Like, I get it. Like, movies aren't necessarily going to be completely 100% to the source material, but like, what decision making led you to warp some of the stuff that was in the true story to what was in the movie?
This is what happens when suits make decisions. So this is based on the fact that true crime. I mean, I think we're in like the post true crime boom, but it certainly had its time where any and every true crime podcast would just do great numbers. And I think this is uh, the example of having the rights to something that you think will make money as opposed to having a story to tell. And so they're like, "Oh, this is pretty weird. We've got a kid who crab walked up a wall, dude. That's a pretty big spectacle. I think we can build a movie around that one spectacle. And then from here, it's just paint by numbers. Let's just do the things that other exorcism movies have done, while we take shots at exorcisms in our exorcism movie. It was very, very bold choice by Mr. Daniels. Uh, yeah, I don't know. That was my take on this. This was a movie that didn't need to be made, but somebody bought the rights and thought, oh, true crime, dude. People are gonna watch this as soon as they hear inspired by a true story. They're gonna be on that shit, and this is the result of ill-conceived, half-baked horror movie. That Nate, let me ask you this: were you scared at any point? Like, did you feel the tension, suspension of this movie? Maybe not for you. That might be a bad question for you since you knew where the whole thing was going, but I'll ask it anyway.
No, I mean, no, not really. And like that's the thing. Like, I don't necessarily get scared by horror movies, um, per se. But you can play that scenario up really well. I mean, just look at the movie The Witch. Like, that's a
The
slow,
Vitch.
yeah, that's a slow burn. I mean, you think about it, it's not a ton of, it's not scary in the sense, but it's really well written, really well produced. The story is still interesting. You can, build on that. And like I think I read somewhere where um I guess Netflix wanted more like tension throughout the movie, and Lee Daniels refused to do that. And you know what? That shit might have helped the movie. Like legitimately, for once, if you listen to Netflix, that might have helped the movie.
So his thought was, no, we don't need to build this demon up, because upon a second viewing, can agree with that. I didn't have that thought myself, to be honest, but now that I'm hearing it, that is another issue. There's not a whole lot that goes on, because the first time we watched it, like I said, we were having our own conversation. It was just on in the background. So when shit got real, we would tune in. We are like, all right, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And when we're sitting down for a second viewing, I'm watching it with intent to finding things to talk about. So I wasn't necessarily as aware as you were when it comes to like, oh yeah, they didn't really do that much early on. It just like there's a whole lot of nothing going on. Stuff is there's a few different weird things, but there's no big scare. Like no one dies until the climax, right? So the stakes aren't super high. You just have a young kid flinging his poo at his teacher. I mean, that was like a hell yeah, brother moment, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what kid hasn't wanted to do that? That was just fantasy fulfillment by the director. There wasn't a whole lot of ominous build up to this where, they had the creepy flies in the basement and they just didn't. Maybe there was a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor, even because
Yeah.
yeah, they didn't do a lot to try to scare you. They were more focused on the family drama of it, is my thought, right? The first third, 2/3, right? It's more just about kids do weird shit. Mom has drama. They have the birthday party. They're dealing with the dad sending the oldest son money. Yeah, it was just
Yeah, and
a lot
that
of nothing.
that's the thing. Like, where's the dad in this scenario? I mean, he's overseas in Iraq. I mean, you know, you would think that maybe the family wouldn't be struggling as much, but I would when I was looking at some stuff earlier and I was able to pull them back up, I found some like quotes from some reviews I thought were kind of hilarious. Like there was one review that was rated half a star. It's devastating to see Academy Award nominee Glenn Close in such a horrifically awful movie. She deserves better than this. Um,
Dude, yes.
there was another one that for when the possession tropes begin, the film quality takes a severe nosedive as every Exorcist knockoff that's hindered many a genre outing gets unveiled quicker than projectile vomit. And I thought that was absolutely on the point.
Yeah, that says it better than I ever could. Thank you for finding those, because that really does. I mean, that's about the same timeline when I keep complaining to you guys about the final 15, 20 minutes. That's when that stuff really starts to kick in, and it's everything you've seen before. There's nothing unique about it, and it just really feels like it was a checklist that was gone through to make
Mhm.
sure, oh, we've got the scenes that we need for this. And I want to go back to the first one because I had a very different version of that same thought. I, at one point upon my second viewing, was just like, man, how bad has Glenn Close been with her money that she's in this movie? Like,
Shades
or
of like, well, not bad. Well, he wasn't bad with the money, but it's like shades of Bruce Willis doing all these like D level
and
straight.
Seagal. Yeah.
Yeah. But also like two other reviews that I thought and I jotted down because I thought that they were kind of interesting. One was a promising slow burn that is quickly doused by a flood of weak tea. And then Daniels is Daniels is in unhinged mode here, reveling in the disreputable R-rated trappings. This is trash, trashy or tasty, succulent trash.
Tasty trash. Okay, well, he liked it. Headbug says it sounds like a day at work with a demon thrown in, and Sleek with a with a nice, but I like that one. So yeah, I was wondering. I had two trains of thought when it came to Glenn Close. Either one, which I mentioned, money's a little tight in the Close household, or two, because she's getting older, maybe there have been fewer opportunities. And this was one that she felt she could sink her teeth into. Because again, except for the moment where they turn her into a demon and it's just unhinged was the word they used, I think. Yeah, that's a great way to sum it up. That was a fever dream. That was one too many mushroom stems. That's what that whole thing was. But other than that, I thought she did a great job, and maybe it was just sort of her saying, "Hey, I still got it. By the way, if y'all need me for anything." So yeah, it'll be interesting. I haven't quite determined my rating for this one, but it's not going to be good. It's going to be when we go through the full horror list before the month is out. We'll be talking about this movie very early on in that episode. It's not going to no chance to crack my top 25, Nate. What about you?
Nowhere near that top 25. I mean, shoot, I wouldn't go this far. I almost said maybe even a Serbian film was better than this bullshit, but that's probably going way too far there. Um,
Yeah, this
shoot,
isn't bad enough to make the list, which is my the worst movies of all time list that I'm curating. It's not going to make that list, but it's very
no.
boring, which is a cardinal sin in entertainment. If you're going to be bad, be Tommy Wiseau bad, be Neil Breen bad. I can't
Shoot,
remember the guy who made Birdemic, but be that
yeah,
kind of
I
bad.
was just
Bring
about to
entertainment.
say I probably enjoyed Birdemic more than I enjoyed this movie because at least like there's some redeeming a bet horrible qualities to Birdemic that still makes it funny.
Yeah, and this is just missing all of that because it has that Netflix studio sheen to it. So it just feels expensive and soulless instead of Birdemic, which was made for $8, I think. I don't know. What a movie. Cool Cat Saves the Kids was cinema. Oh, I didn't even mention Derek Savage, but yes, Derek Savage is on the list. Sharknado needs to be on the list. Let's write a movie. Hey, you ever need my help with that, you just let me know. I'm an amateur filmmaker myself, okay, which sounds awful. It sounds very corn-tastic when you say it that way, but no. Um,
So when is your The Last Airbender coming out then?
Oh my god, dude. On a different day, we'll have to do just a Shyamalan day because that guy went from being a master at a craft to completely somehow forgetting how to do anything to now his movies are just a vessel for nepotism. And Cantaloupe has finished Silent Hill. I am all ears now. Congratulations. I am certain that you had a much better time playing that game than Nate and I had watching the Deliverance, which, if you missed it, is a paint by numbers exorcism knockoff that was as inspired by a true story. What's the name? Ed and Lorraine, right, Nate? Who are those couples that fake everything?
Warren, Ed
The
and Lorraine
Warrens.
Warren. You know what though? At least the Conjuring movies are pretty solid for the most part. I mean, even if the Warrens were hooky pooky.
That is well. Well, first of all, sorry to hear about that, Sleek. Congrats to Kang. Kang got the leave ending. Shyamalan got dementia. I like the Conjuring movies. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. The thing that has been interesting for me to find out over the years was just how full of shit those two may have been. It sounds like, and maybe Nate, again, you have more experience here, so check me if I am quoting invalid sources, but the moral of the story that I've gotten is that most of the Lorraine's ghost stories were just that they were fabricated stories. Are there any of them that you feel strongly about that were there might be some legitimacy to?
Um, I'd have to think about it. Like one of their big ones that they kind of were a part of uh was the Amityville Horror House, which to be honest with you, I
It's
don't
a
believe.
hooer house. No, it's good.
Yeah, I don't fucking believe anything to do with that house whatsoever. Which people have harassed the people that live there enough. They like had to change the address. They've changed the famous bay windows out of the house.
Oh damn!
You could still find it pretty easily. And I think if on Google Maps though, it's a house that's like blurred out that they do sometimes.
The demons. There's a we have a hex. There's a circle of protection around this house. You can't see it. Amityville. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the one where Josh Brolin's dad marries his or murders his family, right? And then they did a Ryan Reynolds remake
Yeah,
two
something
decades
like
ago.
that.
Okay, yeah. I did really like those. I think that's a neat story. Yeah, I have not seen, I would say I've probably seen half of the movies that are based on, or if they're spin-offs of The Conjuring, stuff like that. Like The Nun, I'm pretty sure I haven't seen. We'll get to them though. We'll get to all of them at some point because you guys might think the horror movie stuff will end in October, but no. We like to stay weird and be scared throughout all of these dark, dreary winter months. So you can probably bank on some additional horror content at least through January, February. I would say we'll be here talking about all of it. I got to pick the first franchise. I want to take a horror franchise and go from beginning to end. You know, I'm leaning towards Halloween since I've done a few of those movies already. But chat, if you have some thoughts on a horror movie franchise, whether it's a bad one or a good one that you'd like to see us talk about, one movie at a time from beginning to end, let us know because we're still working on all of the horror content. I know,
Now,
Nate, I have about 15 minutes left in the show. So, any thoughts more on the movie or just some horror stuff in general? I like this, Kang. Yes, agreed. We'll do it year round then. Go ahead, Nate.
um, not so much on the movie. I think I got my piece in there. I think it's well aware how much I despise this movie at this point. But I was going to say, if you're going to do Halloween, are you going to do include the Rob Zombie movies in there?
Yes, and Halloween 3, Season of the Vitch. The Vivitch. Yes, I will. And I will probably redo the Halloween. I think it was either Halloween Kills or Halloween Ends video that was on Critical. The marvelization of Michael Myers, as it were, because when I listen to the old videos, I'm like, I wish someone would inject a shot of adrenaline into this monotoned motherfucker. So while all the takes I still agree with, I think I'd like to improve the delivery upon that. But yes, we would do them all. Definitely I have to do the Hillbilly Rob Zombie. If we're gonna do the franchise, we're gonna do them all, because those might be, I don't know, they're in that so bad it's good category for me. Like I don't like many of the decisions made by Rob Zombie in that movie, but it's like a guilty pleasure for me. I think it came out at the right time. It came out when I was a teenager and didn't really know shit
Mhm.
about why I liked what I liked, and it was easier for me to just go along for a ride on a shitty movie. And I think I was exposed to that one a lot. I just watched the first Rob Zombie Halloween movie a lot with friends, and so it's got a bit of a soft spot for me. But oh god, as far as breaking it down, like trying to be objective about it, interesting, right? Very interesting. So we would
I
talk about
mean,
that.
I feel like those are better than the Busta Rhymes Halloween movie.
Oh, that's the worst. I don't even know. That one might not be on my list yet. Buster Rhymes is bad. H2O is schlocky. It's pretty bad, but it's got some moments. Again, some of them not for the right reasons that are very entertaining. Um, God damn, yeah. They're the one with Paul Rudd. I would say a young Paul Rudd, but he looks exactly the fucking same. Okay, he doesn't look any different. That one's fun because there are multiple cuts of it,
Yeah.
and there's like the director version is all witchy and stuff. And I think it was Harvey Weinstein that came through and cut it up and added a bunch of weird heavy metal transitions to it. And I mean, they're both horribly awesome for their own completely different reasons. And actually, honestly, that one might have incest in it, so I take that back. But we'll just stick with horrible instead of horribly awesome. No, I need to dissect the Stephen King universe. Okay, that's a fun one as well. Oh God, all right. I'm here for this work though. This is going to be some work. I am
See,
here for it.
for that one, that's like the most disappointing universe, just because I feel like, not to like, because we could talk all evening about this, but like most of those movies are either trash or they can't live up to the book or short story,
Ooh,
minus a few
okay,
of them.
okay, yeah. All right, so it's easier for me to think of the ones that I really like first. So I'm just going to start spitting some out, and then if you want to counter with some ones that you really don't like, maybe we can get the whole list out. Okay, 1408. Love that movie. That's a Stephen King short story. I love The Shining. Stephen King hates it. I understand. I have purchased but have yet to watch the made for TV 4-hour version of The Shining that is more true to the novel, that actually introduces Jack's father as a character and all kinds of stuff. I loved the made for TV It, but I was a wee child when that came out. All right. That scared me way more than it should have. And when I watched it once in college, it kind of it deflated for me. When I saw how like 90s cable TV cheesy that one was, I was like, oh, this isn't great. For the new ones, I liked it chapter 1, didn't like it chapter 2. I love The Mist. I think The Mist is one of my favorite
That's
movies.
probably the one of the top three Stephen King adaptions of some sort.
Yes.
Um, I would put it up there.
Oh my god, that Weinstein's. Oh my god. I'd love Suspiria. I will definitely throw the trilogy on the list. That would be great.
um, I
What about
just
like? Oh, go ahead.
I despised both Pet Cemeteries. They both
Oh
were
yeah.
pretty disappointing, to be honest with you. Um, Not a horror movie, but you can't talk about great Stephen King adaptions without talking about The Green Mile.
I was gonna say I was if you. Yep.
Not
Oh.
again, not a horror movie, but
Yep, I mean, yeah, I agree with you that you can't talk about his adaptions and not talk about that one because it's so good. Secret Window, I agree with this take, Headbug. I was really into it. I love the concept. The execution left a lot to be desired. Kangaloope didn't enjoy either Salem's Lots. What was it like? What Cujo? Right, we had and then the one with the was it Christine? What's the one with the semi truck, the Maximum Overload? I can't remember. I remember watching it as a kid. I didn't need between that and Final Destination. It's a miracle I can drive
yeah,
on the highway. Okay, because every semi, especially when a semi is carrying a bunch of tree logs, I'm ready to crap myself.
Not saying it's a great movie overall, but I did enjoy the original Children of the Corn. But then the fact that they decided to make
Cars, Christine. Okay.
multiple Children of the Corns,
Oh yeah, that's a bad one.
like why? Why was that?
Oh,
Don't really
mixed
care.
bag.
Don't care for the modern Carrie, to be honest with you. Like,
Didn't watch it. Didn't need to be made, so I didn't watch it.
yeah, they probably didn't need to do a remake, but you know, that's kind of what happens, unfortunately. Dreamcatcher was okay, not as good as the book, in my opinion. Dreamcatcher is probably one of my top 5 favorite books of all time, though. Shoot, who else? I mean, Shawshank, you know, that speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, the prison, pretty awesome, mind you. You and I have both been there.
That's right. That was a fun time. Which was the one that what book did he write as something Richard Bachman? Can't remember. Which what a fucking G. We can all probably agree that not every single Stephen King book ends properly, but the idea that this dude could come out there and just pen a completely different novel under a different name and it still be a success. I mean, just to me, it's stuff like that that solidifies like, yeah, he knows what he's doing. He's good at his craft.
The Stand, or
Oh, The Stand is
yeah.
one my buddy Sean's favorite book is The Stand.
Stand By Me was pretty solid.
Oh, dude, 11/22/63, right? That's old Steve King. God damn, dude. My God, let's do Philip K. Dick next. That's not horror, but that's another one where you're just like, fuck, how many movies got made on like an 8-pager from this guy? Like, God damn, fucking, we're not worthy. Also, spoiler alert if you guys didn't know, Philip K. Dick, my favorite author. So you will get plenty of shameless plugs for his incredibly hard to find complete collection of
I mean,
short stories.
if you want to get not a Stephen King book, but if you wanted to get real freaky, you could go do the whole Hellraiser universe. There's enough material there.
Ooh, God. Ooh, is that gonna, we might have to wait until we either bring back the Substack or get a Patreon going. No, we might have to keep those off YouTube. Those are the kind of ones like enjoy this 7-minute version on YouTube and become a member for the 35-minute full length.
You know, I actually have not seen those movies, but there's a guy on YouTube, or it's a YouTube channel, Dead Meat. Have you ever seen that channel?
Oh, yeah, dude, I love Dead Meat. Shout out to James A. Janice and Chelsea and is it like Zorlin? What's the guy who does
I forget.
steps up? Yeah, great channel. An inspiration to me personally, honestly, because I was watching, I made fun of my own monotone voice. The early Dead Meat, like James was very stiff and would just read shit as fast as possible. And like to see the growth of that channel and that creator has been incredibly motivating for me personally. So yeah, sorry for the tangent. Yes, I know Dead Meat, love Dead Meat. If somehow you're watching us and haven't subscribed, just do that. Do it.
But yeah, like I
oh, whoops, my bad.
I tend to, especially if it's a movie I haven't seen, I tend to watch those kill counts just to kind of see. So like that, I've never seen Hellraiser, but I've seen all the Hellraiser stuff that he did for kill counts. So
oh yeah, dude, there are certain movies I never would have watched if he hadn't done a kill count on them, like Thanksgiving. That's not cranberry sauce. Or what, I don't remember if that's the right name. But my God, yeah. Oh, so that will be fun, gang. We will be talking about a lot more horror stuff as it comes out, or as it comes out. We'll be talking about new and old stuff. What I stumbled into was Uzumaki Spiral. we'll be talking about that one after the final episode comes out. We're going to talk about that one all at once, but more to come with some other horror content. So I've got notes to take. Thank you all so much for the suggestions. We'll get those in there at some point. Like I said, I'm going to do a video where I go through the whole horror list. There are a few of those movies that I ranked that I haven't seen in a long time, and I'd like to watch them again before I talk about them, but we'll be doing that towards the end of the month. Nate, anything that you want to share with the folks at home? Or, I mean, I've got a couple more minutes before I need to hop out of here and get ready for Han Shot First. But you got anything else you want to chat with the folks about before we leave?
Just don't waste your time watching the movie unless you want some background things.
If you make movie review content, I think this could be a good one for you. If you need something with plenty of stuff to shit on, because if we had sat down and maybe crafted a script, or if we had gone through like the EFAP crew, and there's so much to say. There are a lot of little things that we just kind of let go because we wanted to talk about just a more larger picture, and because we can only go about an hour, so we couldn't talk about everything there was to poke fun at today. But I agree with Headbug Nate. I appreciate you. We were talking about that pre-show. Nate and I have done many projects together, but it's been a very long time since we've done a non-sports podcast. So I will just say, Nate, you're welcome back anytime, brother. You let us know when you want to come in. If you ever want to just hop in on a Monday and just talk general nerd news with us, that would be great. As Sleep mentions, we still miss Danny. Danny's going to be popping in every once in a while on a Monday to talk with Nate and I, and Danny and I will be doing some stuff too. So there's going to be plenty more opportunities for you guys to see Nate on Dweeb if he has time for us. So thank you all so much. One last time, Nate, anything to promo? Can anybody follow you online anywhere? Where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Ben Ham and Turkey, or on Twitter or X, unless Elon just continues to destroy it. But neither here
We
or
love
nor
Leon.
Come
on, Leon.
Bite Size Nate, you can find me there. Yeah, gonna go cave exploring this weekend, so we'll see how that goes.
Ooh, that'll be fun. All right. Yeah, and you know what? We need to do a ghost hunt, I think, sometime soon, Nate and I. We've talked about that for a very long time. We need to make it happen. Harl says EFAP isn't live often enough for the amount of background noise I need. You guys could really help my background noise quota if you did a shameless ripoff. I would tell you, I would love to have a panel type review show. I would love to add that into our sphere here over at Dweeb. So maybe we'll get something that grow. Our numbers are growing, with Danny coming on the part-time. We've got Nate here to join us. On Monday, as the viewers know, was at a family birthday party. I talked with the two of my founders, with Lucky and Kelsey, and I was about to invite them to dinner. And as I said, hey guys, we should really, and Lou said, get together and record sometime. So, hey, there may be even more folks. It's going to be new to all of you. We were doing the Dweeb podcast for a couple years together. We weren't actually putting it on YouTube. So eventually I'll get all that stuff re-uploaded. But I think you guys will really like Lucky and Kelsey when they join us too. So if you like what you heard today and want more, please like and subscribe. Turn on that bell for notifications, because we go live not just Monday and Wednesday now. We got some pretty impromptu things getting fired up. Thank you all for joining this random stream, including you, Nate. What you got for me?
So I forgot to say this before, but my buddy does a bunch of film stuff too, and he did watch this movie. His name's Alec Toombs. You can find all his reviews on Letterboxd. So he gave this a 3-star out of 5, The Deliverance. And I read through it earlier just because I kind of wanted to see what he thought. But I'm going to read his review because it's short. The projection of Glenn Close possessed character looks like Nosferatu. And I butchered
Nosferatu. That Dude, that's what we're calling it from now on.
And
Nosferatu, but Nosferatu is a winner.
Talks like some combination to Don Imus and Andrew Dice Clay.
Hey, yes, that is good. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to
said
follow him.
said good performances from Andra Day and I can't ever say her first name, but Ellis Taylor, but producer director Lee Daniels is still a cheesemeister. Better than recent possession movies such as The Exorcist Believer and The Exorcism. And then his last line was, "Why the hell did the filmmakers feel it was necessary to move the action from Gary, Indiana to Pittsburgh?" What did I say?
Listen, I've been to some places in Pittsburgh that reminded me of Gary, Indiana, but still, come on, man. You couldn't just fly a drone in there and get some pickup shots. You're going to take the one time anybody's interest, and it's still not positive, I should say, but finally people are saying something about Gary, Indiana, other than how much it sucks, and you're going to just move it to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, Indiana doesn't have the Pirates, they don't have the Steelers. Come on,
they got the rail.
What are we doing here? It's the Bridges. Was it a bridge heavy film? Harles wants to know. It's all connected. All right, gang. Well, I got to get out of here. Just spoiler alert, if we're late, it's definitely my fault, not James's this time. It's got to be. But I got to go hit the reset button over here and talk Star Wars with you guys. So if you're interested in that, we are talking season 2 of Rebels, episodes 1 through 5. There are 2 different arcs that we'll be breaking down. Lots of cool stuff. So Nate, once again, thank you so much for joining me. This was awesome. I am really glad that chat had a good time with it too. So hopefully it means we see more Nate, gang. So eggs in the chat if you want more Nate, whatever. You just do whatever you want to do. Just let Nate know he has been appreciated if you would. And we will see you guys on another episode of Dweeb. Until then, peace out.